Does drinking alcohol truly warm up a person's body?
While drinking a shot of bourbon or other alcoholic drink on a winter's day might provide a sensation of being warmed up, in actuality alcohol makes a person's body more vulnerable to the cold. When you drink booze, what happens is that the alcohol causes blood vessels to constrict. This forces more blood to the surface of the skin, which stimulates nerves in the body and makes the drinker feel warmer. The actual effect, however, is that increased blood to the surface of the body causes one to lose more heat, lowering body temperature and making him or her more susceptible to frostbite. Add to this the fact that alcohol impairs one's judgment, and the idea of drinking on the ski slopes proves to be a very bad one indeed.
Do tornadoes strike in countries other than the United States and Canada?
Yes, but the United States keeps the best records on tornadoes, and so it is difficult to ascertain the frequency and ferocity of twisters in foreign nations. The Canadian prairie experiences significant incidents, but one could say that these are all part and parcel of the North American conditions that are ideal for tornado formation. Other countries that have significant accounts of tornado activity include Great Britain, Italy, Western France, Brazil, Argentina, Russia, Bangladesh, China, Northern India, Pakistan, Japan, South Africa, and New Zealand. England experiences a tornado about once every year and a half, and Australia probably has more tornadoes than are witnessed, because many of them likely occur in the outback, where the population is sparse.
What is the hottest place in the United States?
The most inhospitably hot and dry place in America is Death Valley in eastern California. Also the lowest place, at 280 feet below sea level, Death Valley regularly experiences temperatures in the 120s Fahrenheit, high 40s to low 50s Celsius, and higher. And the valley sees temperatures above 100 degrees Fahrenheit 37.8 degrees Celsius between 140 and 160 days every year, even in the shade. The record high here has been tallied at 134 degrees Fahrenheit 56.7 degrees Celsius. Annual rainfall in Death Valley is less than 2 inches, 50 millimeters.
How were kites once used in early meteorology?
Kites, when skillfully designed and flown, can reach extraordinary heights. The world record for a single kite being flown is 14,509 feet, 4,422 meters. The record was set in Kincardine, Ontario, Canada, on August 12, 2000, by Richard Synergy. Much greater heights may be achieved, however, when multiple kites are linked together. A chain of 10 kites set an American record in 1910, rising to 23,385 feet, 7,128 meters. And a collection of 8 kites reached 31,955 feet, 9,740 meters, in Lindenberg, Germany. In 1919. The earliest record of kites being used for meteorology comes from the University of Glasgow, where in 1749 two students, Alexander Wilson and Thomas Melville, wanted to measure conditions in the upper atmosphere. Since there were no airplanes or hot air balloons at the time, they used a kite.
Are there different categories of rainfall?
Yes. Rainfall is categorized into 3 types. Convective rain happens when the sun warms the air near the ground, as the air then rises. It cools in the higher altitudes and water droplets form, creating a rain shower. Orographic rain is caused when air masses are elevated due to a geological feature such as a mountain. At the same time, landforms create a kind of squeegee effect on moisture as it runs into mountains. The result is the same as with convective rain, because as the air cools in the higher elevation, rain may result on the windward side of the hill or mountain. Cyclonic rain is the result of interacting air masses, which collide and force warm air masses upwards. This type of rain formation often results in strong thunderstorms or hurricanes.
What measurements do weather satellites provide us?
Early weather satellites transmitted images of clouds and could also take infrared IR readings, which allowed for weather monitoring both day and night. With IR sensors, satellites can detect temperature readings, which can also indicate cloud elevation. Modern satellites are capable of many other observations, as well. Detailed images of not only clouds, but also land and sea surfaces and temperatures. Provide scientists with information about fog, snow, rain, ocean currents, haze, air pollution, ozone levels, soil moisture levels, airborne dust, and even volcano and forest fire activity. Satellites are also used to take surveys of agricultural activities and vegetation growth.
How is pollution related to weather?
Pollution, both natural and man-made, has numerous, often complex effects on the weather. Air pollutants, for instance, can cause acid rain. And pollution that destroys the ozone layer can lead to health risks to people and even wipe out species. Many scientists believe that human-generated pollution is causing climate change, which affects weather patterns on a global scale. While some pollutants, such as gases from volcanic eruptions, can have harmful consequences, Many meteorologists, environmentalists, and climatologists fear that human activity is having a much bigger negative impact on the weather and our health than anything currently occurring from natural sources.
What is a cloud chamber?
Cloud chambers were originally designed to study radioactivity. Scottish physicist Charles Thomson Rees-Wilson, 1869–1959, invented the chamber in 1912. Winning the Nobel Prize in Physics in 1927 for his invention. The procedure involved saturating an enclosed chamber in water vapor until it was supersaturated. Ionized particles would then be passed through the chamber, serving as nuclei around which droplets would form. This had the advantage of making the particles visible to physicists, and the behavior of the particles could be studied.
Which month is the most dangerous for tornadoes in the United States?
According to one study, May is the most dangerous month for tornadoes in the United States, with an average of 329, while February's average is the safest with only 3. In another study, the months December and January were usually the safest, and the months having the greatest number of tornadoes were April, May, and June. In February, tornado frequency begins to increase. February tornadoes tend to occur in the central Gulf states. In March, the center of activity moves eastward to the southeastern Atlantic states, where tornado activity peaks in April. In May, the center of activity is in the southern plains states. In June, this moves to the northern plains and Great Lakes area, into western New York. The most costly outbreak of tornadoes occurred in May 1999, when at least 74 tornadoes touched down in less than 48 hours in Oklahoma and Kansas, including an F5 on the outskirts of Oklahoma City, causing $1.1 billion in damage.
What is the difference between freezing rain, sleet, and hail?
Freezing rain is rain that falls as a liquid but turns to ice on contact with a freezing object to form a smooth ice coating called glaze. Usually freezing rain only lasts a short time, because it either turns to rain or to snow. Sleet is frozen or partially frozen rain in the form of ice pellets. Sleet forms when rain falls from a warm layer of air, passes through a freezing air layer near the Earth's surface, and forms hard, clear, tiny ice pellets that can hit the ground so fast that they bounce off with a sharp click. Hail is a larger form of sleet.
What, then, is hydrometeorology?
Hydrometeorology is an 8-syllable word meaning the study of the exchange of water between the lower atmosphere and the land below it.
What is plasma?
Plasma is the fourth state of matter, the other states being solid, liquid, and gas. It is formed when electrons are stripped away from atoms and a mix of free electrons and the resulting ions exist together. Plasma is found in stars, which makes it actually the most common state of matter in the universe. But plasma is also found in the solar winds that blow out from the sun and collide with the magnetosphere. Some plasma radiation makes its way into the ionosphere, too. Lightning is also a form of plasma.
How can a gardener preserve unripe tomatoes before a winter frost?
As any gardener knows, the first freeze of the winter season will kill many plants and ruin fruits and vegetables that have not yet been harvested. Tomatoes that are still a bit green can be placed in a paper bag and stored in a dry, dark pantry, where they should continue to ripen normally.
Where does the word tornado come from?
The word comes from the Latin root tornare, which means to turn. Tronada, in Spanish, means thunderstorm and is also considered a source of the word tornado.
Besides the 1974 tornado outbreak, what are some other serious outbreaks that have hit the United States?
On April 11, 1965, Palm Sunday, the American Midwest was struck by 37 tornadoes that killed 256 people and injured more than 5,000. An outbreak of 22 tornadoes on May 28, 1984, killed 57 in the Carolinas, left 1,248 injured, and caused about $200 million in damages. The next year, on May 31, 75 people died after 41 tornadoes raged across Ontario, Canada, causing $450 million in damages. There were two terrible outbreaks in the early 1990s. From April 26 to 27, 1991, 54 tornadoes made landing in Texas and Iowa. 21 people were killed and 208 injured. The next year, on November 21, 94 tornadoes destroyed lives and property through 13 states, stretching from the Midwest to the East Coast. This outbreak left 26 people dead and 641 injured.
What causes a flood?
Flooding results when more water enters an environment than can be easily absorbed into the soil or drained away in rivers and streams. Flooding is usually caused by intense rainfalls that dump many inches of water onto an area over a short period of time, or they can also be caused by ocean swells and storm surges initiated by hurricanes and tropical storms. Tsunamis, naturally, also cause flooding. The 2004 tsunamis that resulted in an undersea earthquake in the Indian Ocean, for instance, killed about 238,000 people in 11 surrounding countries. Most of these people died from the initial landfall of the waves and resulting floods. In addition, floods can be caused artificially, such as when a dam or levee breaks.
What was the 2008 hurricane season like?
After a two-year lull in 2006 and 2007, 2008 came roaring back as one of the strongest hurricane seasons on record. Although there were no Category 5 hurricanes, there were 2 Category 4s, Ike and Gustav, and 3 Category 3s, Bertha, Omar, and Paloma. Neither Ike nor Gustav made landfall in the United States as Category 5s. But a weakened Hurricane Gustav caused tremendous destruction in Galveston, Texas. About 1,000 deaths resulted from 8 hurricanes, 5 of which were classified as major, Category 3 or 4. There were also 8 strong tropical storms that did not develop into hurricanes. Despite lacking a Category 5 storm, the 2008 season broke the record for most months with a major hurricane, with 5 months including such major storms: July, Bertha, August, Gustav, September, Ike, October, Omar, and November, Paloma. Of these hurricanes, Gustav was the worst for Americans. Galveston had to be evacuated because of a huge storm surge and waves reaching an incredible 50 feet. 15 meters, many people lost their homes.
What is wind shear?
Wind shear refers to rapid changes in wind speed and slash or direction over short distances and is usually associated with thunderstorms. Sometimes, though, wind shears can also occur as a result of a strong front moving through a region, or from abrupt changes in air mass near mountains. Wind shear is especially dangerous to aircraft, and Doppler radars at airports help to warn pilots of this threat.
What is barometric pressure and what does it mean?
Barometric, or atmospheric, pressure is the force exerted on a surface by the weight of the air above that surface, as measured by an instrument called a barometer. Pressure is greater at lower levels because the air's Molecules are squeezed under the weight of the air above. So while the average air pressure at sea level is 14.7 pounds per square inch, at 1,000 feet, 304 meters, above sea level, the pressure drops to 14.1 pounds per square inch. And at 18,000 feet, 5,486 meters, the pressure is 7.3 pounds, about half of the figure at sea level. Changes in air pressure bring weather changes. High-pressure areas bring clear skies and fair weather, low-pressure areas bring wet or stormy weather. Areas of very low pressure have serious storms, such as hurricanes.
Who first correctly wrote about the structure of snowflakes?
This honor goes to Han Ying, a Han Dynasty scholar who published moral discourses illustrating the Han text of the Book of Songs in 135b. C.E. Han correctly described how snowflakes always take on a hexagonal form of some kind. Unless the flakes are broken, even though this six-sided fundamental structure has incredible variety. The Western scientific world would not get this right until the 17th century. When German mathematician and astronomer Johannes Kepler, 1571–1630, published A New Year's Gift, or On the Six-Cornered Snowflake in 1611. English mathematician and astronomer Thomas Harriot, c. 1560–1621, actually correctly described snowflakes' hexagonal form in 1591. But this description was not made public.
What is a concentric eye wall?
Most hurricanes are centered around one eye, but sometimes a secondary eye wall surrounds this eye. The second eye wall surrounds the first, and is thus called a concentric eye wall.
What is the ICESat mission?
ICESat, short for Ice, Cloud, and Land Elevation Satellite, is a satellite launched by NASA on January 12, 2003. To collect data on everything from land topography and vegetation to information on aerosol levels. On board is a single monitoring device called the Geoscience Laser Altimeter System, GLASS. One of the chief missions of ICESat, however, is to find out how the planet's ice sheets are changing.
How much water is contained in snow?
Depending on conditions and as anyone who has had to shovel snow can attest to, snow can range from light and fluffy to heavy, dense, and slushy. As a general rule of thumb, however, every 10 inches of snowfall that accumulates on the ground would equal about an inch of rain if it all melted.
How hot can the human body get and still survive?
University-level research has included experiments that show that the human body can withstand a temperature of about 250 degrees Fahrenheit 121 degrees Celsius for up to 15 minutes. A more extreme case in which a professor conducted the research on himself showed that a healthy person could withstand 364 degrees Fahrenheit 184 degrees Celsius for 1 minute.
Who helped link CFCs to the destruction of the ozone layer?
Mexican atmospheric chemist Mario J. Molina, full name, José Mario Molina Pascual Enríquez 1943-. And American atmospheric chemist Frank Sherwood Rowland, 1927. Are generally acknowledged as the scientists who first explained how chlorofluorocarbons were destroying the ozone layer. A paper they published together in 1974 first explained how the process works about 4 years after scientists began to understand that ozone levels were declining in the upper atmosphere. The result of their work led the United States government to ban CFCs in aerosol cans in 1978.
Is there a difference between a forecast of partly sunny or partly cloudy skies?
Yes. The difference is that partly cloudy refers to a sky that is mostly clear with some clouds in it, while partly sunny is a sky that has more cloud cover than clear patches.
Who invented the dew point hygrometer?
The dew point hygrometer, a type of dry and wet bulb psychrometer, was invented in 1820 by John Frederick Daniel, 1790–1845. It consisted of two thin glass bulbs joined by a glass tube. One bulb held a thermometer and was filled with ether, the other was empty. As the air in the empty bulb cooled, the ether would condense on the thermometer, indicating the dew point temperature. Variations of Daniel's device are still used today, including cooled mirror hygrometers that measure dew point when condensation forms on a mirror.
What is lightning?
Lightning is an electrical discharge occurring in the atmosphere. It comes in many forms and the manner in which it works is only now becoming fully understood.
What was the first university to offer a degree in meteorology in the United States?
The Massachusetts Institute of Technology was the first. Institute of Higher Education to offer a meteorology degree. Swedish meteorologist Carl Gustav Rossby, 1898 to 1957, founded the program there in 1928. Rossby would go on to found programs at the University of California at Los Angeles and the University of Chicago, as well.
Is it dangerous to touch a person who has just been struck by lightning?
No. A common myth is that people who have been hit by lightning maintain a dangerous electrical charge that can be transmitted to someone else who touches the victim. Actually, no such residual charge will remain, and it is safe to touch them and give them medical assistance.
Am I getting hit by neutrinos right now?
You and every square inch of Earth's surface are being continuously bombarded by neutrinos from space. Billions of neutrinos slice through your body every second. Fortunately, neutrinos are so unlikely to interact with any matter, including the atoms and molecules in the human body, that the billions upon billions of neutrinos that hit you every second have no discernible effect at all. In fact, the odds that any neutrino striking Earth will interact with any atom in our planet at all is about 1 in a billion. Even when it does happen, the result is merely a tiny flash of harmless light.
How do I convert Fahrenheit to Celsius or Kelvin?
Fahrenheit and Celsius are two common temperature scales used throughout the world. Temperature in Fahrenheit can be converted to Celsius by subtracting 32 and multiplying by 5. Divide that number by 9 and you have Celsius. Conversely, you can convert Celsius to Fahrenheit by adding 32, multiplying by 9 and finally dividing by 5. Kelvin, a system used by scientists, is based on the same scale as Celsius. All you have to do is add 273 to your Celsius temperature to obtain Kelvin. 0 degrees Kelvin is negative 273 degrees Celsius.
What is the difference between normal rain pH and acid rain pH?
The normal pH of rainwater is 5.0 to 5.6, while acid rain has a pH of about 4.3, compared to distilled water, with a neutral pH of 7.0. Natural rainwater is slightly acidic because of dissolved carbon dioxide, which actually makes it similar to club soda without the bubbles. Under some conditions, such as after dust storms, rain can become more alkaline. And volcanoes can add sulfur to clouds and contribute to acid rain. One extreme example of the latter happened in 1783, when Iceland's Loki volcano erupted and spewed so much sulfur into the air that acid rain killed the island's crops and polluted the air over Europe.
Why is the sky blue?
While this might seem like a simple question to answer, it has puzzled parents of curious children for ages. The answer can be a bit long-winded. The Earth's atmosphere is made up of gases and a scattering of water and solid particles. As light from the sun enters the atmosphere, most of it passes straight through the air. But some of it disperses because of something called Rayleigh scattering. Shorter wavelengths of light waves in sunlight, those on the blue end of the scale, are absorbed by gas molecules and then released at different angles. Because the bluer wavelengths are scattered in this manner, this is the end of the spectrum of light that reaches people's eyes. However, as your eye looks more and more toward the horizon, you are looking through a much thicker layer of air and less blue light reaches your eyes. Which is why the sky appears bluer as you look up, but paler as you look toward the horizon.
Why does lightning flicker?
Once the path is established through which the electricity of the lightning will flow, the same path will be followed for a number of milliseconds before it breaks down. Several strokes of lightning, each lasting millionths of a second, will be interspersed with brief pauses lasting for periods of time just as short. The result is a flickering effect.
How is the wind chill calculated?
Wind chill is calculated using the following formula. Wind chill equals 35.74 plus 0.6215 T, 35.75, V 0.16, plus 0.4275 T, V 0.16. The wind chill is in degrees Fahrenheit, T is the air temperature, and V is the wind speed in miles per hour. Above is the official wind chill chart from the National Weather Service as of 2009.
What is a person's circadian rhythm?
Human beings have evolved in a world where there are regular cycles of day and night. And we have thus developed a kind of internal clock that makes us want to sleep at night and be awake during the day. This occurs even when we are, say, underground or in an enclosed factory, with no windows, where there are no visual cues as to the time of day. The circadian rhythm controls such bodily functions as peristalsis, movement of food through the digestive tract, leading eventually to excretion, blood pressure, melatonin secretion, hormone levels, and alertness versus fatigue. In our modern world, people have tried to adjust to lifestyles that are not exactly commensurate with their circadian rhythms. Electricity and other sources of power allow us to work late at night, drive vehicles, and operate machinery at times when our bodies would rather be asleep. The result is that more accidents involving cars and factory equipment happen at night than during the day. We are also much less efficient at night, even when doing safe activities like balancing the checkbook.
Do ocean currents affect coastal weather?
Yes, ocean currents have the effect of moderating climates along coastal regions. Ocean waters tend to stabilize temperatures, which is why living on the coast of Southern California, for example, is a much more pleasant climatic experience than living farther inland, where it is much drier and warmer.
Where is lightning most likely to occur?
Lightning tends to strike more often over land masses than over oceans, and it is more frequently seen in the tropics, where 2/3 of the electrical storms happen.
What is a whiteout?
An official definition for whiteout does not exist. It is a colloquial term that can describe any condition during snowfall that severely restricts visibility. That may mean a blizzard, or snow squall, etc. if you get some sunlight in the mix. That makes the situation even worse. It's like driving in fog with your headlights on high beam. The light gets backscattered right into your eyes and you can't see.
What place holds the record for the least amount of rain on Earth?
From October 1903 to January 1918, Arica, Chile, received no measurable rainfall.
What is a bolide?
Bolides are meteors large enough to create an easily seen fireball as they enter Earth's atmosphere. They can even be seen during the daytime and often appear greenish, though other hues have also been observed.
How bright is lightning?
The light from a lightning bolt is equal to the amount of illumination from about 100 million light bulbs.
How many times does lightning strike the Earth each year?
About 20 million bolts of lightning are generated in the atmosphere every year. and during any particular second about 100 to 125 lightning strokes are occurring on our planet. Thunderstorms are very common in the Earth's atmosphere, with about 1,500 to 2,000 such storms being active at any given time. For astronauts circling the Earth's night side, this makes for an exciting view as numerous white flashes are easily viewed from a space shuttle or from the International Space Station.
What is radon?
Radon is actually a naturally occurring radioactive gas that is emitted from ground sources of decaying uranium and radium. It only becomes a dangerous hazard within man-made structures, such as private homes, where the radon can seep into basements and build up to harmful, carcinogenic concentrations. Lung cancer is one of the primary potential threats of radon poisoning. The government standard for safe levels of radon is under 4 picocuries per liter, which is roughly the equivalent of smoking a half pack of cigarettes per day. Because it is impossible to say which homes are more at risk for radon pollution than others, it is best to install radon detectors in the home. If a problem is detected, it can usually be solved by simple basement repairs or improving ventilation systems.
What causes turbulence?
Air turbulence usually occurs in the higher levels of the atmosphere, which is why you don't notice it unless you're in an airplane. It happens when upward and downward moving currents of air mix, convective mixing. This typically is noticed while flying through a cloud or near a jet stream.
Who first theorized that there was a link between volcanoes and climate?
As well as being one of the founding fathers of the United States, an inventor, and a diplomat, Benjamin Franklin, 1706 to 1790. Is often credited as the first person to notice that volcanic activity might be affecting weather. Observing that, after the eruption of Iceland's Loki volcano in 1783, there seemed to be a period of cooler weather lasting into 1784. Franklin believed that the more common incidence of fogs in Europe was a consequence of the eruption.
Does all carbon dioxide released as pollution remain in the atmosphere?
No, not at all. A lot of it is reabsorbed by plants, as well as the oceans, where it turns into carbonic acid. Forests and oceans can only do so much, however, especially when people are cutting down forests all over the planet. It only takes 1 acre of forest to absorb about 13 tons of gas and particle pollutants annually. What is not absorbed remains in the atmosphere. And people are producing so much CO2 and other pollutants that there is a net gain in global warming gases.
What did NASA and the U.S. military discover about triggered lightning?
During a couple of space launches, NASA learned that ionized exhaust from rockets can trigger a lightning stroke if rain clouds are nearby. This happened during one of the Apollo missions, though with no dire consequences. More infamously, in 1987 an Air Force rocket launched from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida was hit by lightning. The rocket was destroyed at a cost of $162 million. Scientists have known about triggered lightning for a long time. And they sometimes attach copper lines to small rockets to attract lightning for research purposes. Lightning caused by rocket exhaust, though, is an unintentional side effect.
What is a willy willy?
Willy Willy is the Australian name for a tornado or dust devil.
Why did the United States refuse to sign the Kyoto Protocol?
The United States refused to sign the Kyoto Agreement in 1997, and again in 2001, for a number of reasons. One major reason was that China and India were exempt from the stringent pollution controls that would have been imposed on the United States. So US representatives said this would allow for an unfair trade advantage. Furthermore, the US government was convinced that the protocol would severely damage the economy in general, costing many Americans their jobs and making the nation more dependent on foreign energy suppliers.
When does the green flash phenomenon occur?
On rare occasions, as the last tip of the sun is setting, the sun may look bright green for a moment. This green flash occurs because the red rays of light are hidden below the horizon and the blue rays are scattered in the atmosphere. The green rays are seldom seen because of dust and pollution in the lower atmosphere. The phenomenon is best seen when the air is cloudless and when a distant, well-defined horizon exists, such as an ocean view.
Have hailstones ever proven to be deadly?
Strong hails can be heavy and plummet at speeds that have been known to break windows, dent cars, damage roofs, destroy crops, to the tune of about $1 billion annually in the United States alone, and, yes, even kill. In July 1953, for instance, 30,000 ducks were found dead after a hailstorm in Alberta, Canada. In Montana, a July 1978 hailstorm killed about 200 sheep. In the United States, not many people have been killed as a result of hail. The last reported death was on July 30, 1979. A hailstorm in Fort Collins, Colorado, killed an infant and injured about 70 other people. Storms in other, poorer regions of the world are more common. However, because poorly built shelters collapse, killing those inside. For example, in Sichuan province, China, a fierce hailstorm injured 9,000 people and killed 100 on March 22, 1986. A month later, that same year, 92 people died in Gopalganj, Bangladesh. With some hailstones reported to weigh over 2 pounds, 3 kilograms.
What is the difference between snow and hail?
Snow is water vapor that freezes in clouds before falling to the earth. Hail is water droplets, raindrops, that have turned to ice in clouds.
How can I obtain a flood map of my community?
The best way to see a flood insurance rate map, firm, for your area would be to contact your local government, their planning or emergency management agency should have the firm maps available. Purchasing them from FEMA is not recommended because the maps change often and are best interpreted by a planning or emergency expert.
Is static electricity similar to lightning?
Yes. When you generate a static charge by, for example, wearing wool socks and rubbing your feet on a shag carpet, and then touching a piece of furniture or a person, the spark that is released is just like a miniature bolt of lightning. Static electricity charges can generate 40,000 volts or more, which, as some people know, can be damaging to electronics, such as computers.
Which freezes more quickly, cold or hot water?
An old wives' tale that still circulates in American homes is that if you wish to freeze ice quickly in an ice tray, put hot tap water in it and then put it in the freezer. Of course, many homes have automatic ice dispensers in their refrigerators. So this tale is beginning to die out somewhat. Let's dispel the myth now, however, and say that, no, hot water will not freeze faster than cold. However, what does work is boiling the water, then allowing it to cool down to a tepid temperature. Boiling the water removes air bubbles in the water. increasing thermal conductivity, and allowing the water to freeze more quickly. Of course, the time wasted boiling the water and then allowing it to cool would have been better spent by simply putting lukewarm water in the freezer in the first place. Not to mention that it would be more energy efficient not to boil the water.
What is climatology?
Climatology is the study of the world's climates and how they are changing over time.
What is the Vortex Project?
Vortex stands for Verification of the Origin of Rotation in Tornadoes experiment. Conducted at the National Severe Storms Laboratory from 1994 to 1995, the project was led by Erik Rasmussen. And the goal was to conduct intense data gathering using weather balloons, airplanes, turtles, and cars equipped with radars and taking photographs. The study focused on tornadoes formed in supercells and collected so much data that it took years to analyze it all.
What is Doppler radar?
Doppler radar measures frequency differences between signals bouncing off objects moving away from or toward it. By measuring the difference between the transmitted and received frequencies, Doppler radar calculates the speed of the air in which the rain, snow, ice crystals, and even insects are moving. It can then be used to predict speed and direction of wind and amount of precipitation associated with a storm.
How fast does the solar wind travel?
The flow of plasma out from the sun is generally continuous in all directions, typically moving at speeds of several hundred kilometers per second. It can, however, gust out of holes in the solar corona at 2,200,000 miles per hour. 1,000 kilometers per second, or faster. As the solar wind travels farther from the sun, it picks up speed, but it also rapidly loses density.
What is a rope tornado?
A rope tornado is simply a descriptive phrase referring to a tornado that has a thin, bending, rope-like appearance. Some people make the bad mistake of thinking that rope tornadoes are regular tornadoes that are beginning to dissipate. Dissipating tornadoes are described as roping out. Actually, they can be just as intense as tornadoes with much wider funnels.
Are falling meteors and meteorites dangerous?
Typical meteors and meteorites pose no danger of any kind to people. Meteors burn up before they reach Earth, so they do not hit anything on the surface. Meteorites are so rare that the chances of their hitting anything important are almost zero. Still, occasional incidents are known to happen. A falling meteorite killed a dog in Egypt in 1911, another struck the arm of and rudely awakened a sleeping woman in Alabama in 1954. And in 1992 a meteorite put a hole through a Chevy Malibu automobile. Once in a very rare while every 100,000 years or so a meteor or meteorite about 300 feet. 100 meters, across will collide with Earth. Once in a very, very rare while every 100 million years or so a meteorite 3,000 feet. 1,000 meters across will do so, and that is a cataclysmic event.
What is a hook echo?
A hook echo, also called a hook pattern, is a warning sign that a tornado has possibly formed. On radar, the echo looks kind of like the number 6 and is associated with a mesocyclone within a storm. So it is called a tornadic mesocyclone. The distinctive hook shape was first seen on April 9, 1953, by electrical engineer Donald Staggs, who was monitoring the radar system at the Illinois State Water Survey in Champaign. A hook echo does not necessarily indicate a tornado has definitely formed, but it is a strong indication that it has. On the other hand, tornadoes can and do form without the telltale hook echo ever being seen.
Is air pollution destroying our architectural history?
Yes. Many important buildings and monuments around the world are slowly being destroyed by air pollution and acid rain. The famous Taj Mahal in Agra, India, for instance, is turning from white to yellow because of pollution from car exhaust. So the local government has banned automobile traffic from coming closer than 1.25 miles, 2 kilometers. In other locales, the Sphinx in Egypt and the Parthenon in Greece are both being eaten away by acid rains. The acids are produced by sulfur dioxide mixing with water to form sulfuric acid solutions. This is particularly damaging to structures built from limestone and sandstone, common materials used by many civilizations throughout history, which are turned into powdery gypsum as a result. Over time, layers of building material crumble and turn to dust.
What is the difference between a frost and a hard freeze?
The National Weather Service issues a hard freeze warning when it predicts that regional temperatures will fall below 27 degrees Fahrenheit (-2.8 degrees Celsius) for 4 hours or more. Such a freeze is of particular concern to gardeners and farmers because temperatures this low will destroy crops. The good news is that a hard freeze usually spells the end. For mosquitoes and other pesky insects for the rest of the year. Frosts, on the other hand, do not require such low temperatures. In fact, air temperatures can be several degrees above freezing, while surface temperatures are at or below freezing, causing frost to form on car windows and other surfaces.
Who are storm chasers?
Storm chasers are scientists and amateur storm enthusiasts who track and intercept severe thunderstorms and tornadoes. Two reasons for storm chasing are, 1, to gather data to use in researching severe storms, and 2, to provide a visual observation of severe storms indicated on radar stations. In addition, television personnel will chase storms to produce a dramatic storm video. Storm chasing can be an extremely dangerous activity in which strong winds, heavy rain, hail, and lightning threaten one's safety. Individuals who chase storms are trained in the behavior of severe storms. Roger Jensen, 1933 to 2001, is generally considered the first person to be an active storm chaser. A self-trained weather observer and professional photographer, Jensen spent 50 years recording data on tornadoes as well as thunderstorms. David Hoadley, 1938, is also considered a pioneer in the field and founder of the first newsletter on the subject, Storm Track. The first scientist who became a storm chaser was Neil Ward, 1914 to 1972, who worked for the National Severe Storms Laboratory in Norman, Oklahoma, and is considered the official father of the storm chase because of his credentials.
How is Earth's atmosphere important to life on Earth?
Very few life forms on Earth can survive for any length of time at all without Earth's atmosphere. We breathe the atmosphere, and it blocks harmful radiation from space. The pressure it provides keeps surface water liquid, and the greenhouse effect it produces keeps us warm.
What are the hazards of dust storms?
Dust storms regularly occur in such places as the Sahara and Gobi deserts. Not only do dust storms destroy farms, they also invade homes and other buildings and can cause health problems ranging from stinging eyes to lung and other respiratory problems. Lowering visibility. Dust storms have been known, to cause traffic accidents just as well as a snowstorm can. In 1995, for example, 8 people were killed on the New Mexico-Arizona border when a dust storm blew across a highway.
How much does air pollution damage crops in the United States?
It is estimated that the United States loses millions of dollars in crops every year because of air pollution. In the East, crop reductions cost about $3 billion in losses annually. And farmland near such cities as Los Angeles and Chicago is far less productive than land far from such cities.
Can groundhogs accurately predict the weather?
Over a 60-year period, groundhogs have accurately predicted the weather, i.e., when spring will start. Only 28% of the time on Groundhog Day, February 2nd. Groundhog Day was first celebrated in Germany, where farmers would watch for a badger to emerge from winter hibernation. If the day was sunny, the sleepy badger would be frightened by his shadow and duck back for another 6 weeks nap. If it was cloudy, he would stay out, knowing that spring had arrived. German farmers who emigrated to Pennsylvania brought the celebration to America. Finding no badgers in Pennsylvania, they chose the groundhog as a substitute.
Besides rime frost, what other types of frost are there?
Different weather conditions can cause frost to form in various ways. Sometimes with spectacularly beautiful results. The types of frost include advection, wind. Frost is frost that forms on the edges of plants and other objects. Advection frost is formed on the upwind side of objects during very cold winds. Fern, window, frost gets its name from the fern-like patterns it forms on windows. Especially windows that are not well insulated. Flaws in the glass's surface provide the nucleus needed for water vapors to form crystals, which then radiate outwards in intricate patterns. Frost flowers are the result of a rare interaction between plants and the weather. When water inside a plant stem cracks or splits due to the cold, the water can escape and then freeze into flower-like shapes. Because they are so fragile, frost flowers usually break apart or melt within hours of forming. Hoar, radiation, frost is formed on clear nights when surface objects are colder than the surrounding air. It appears as white, loosely organized crystals. Hoarfrost may appear similar to rime, but unlike rime it is formed without the presence of mist or fog.
Who created the first artificial snowflake?
Japanese physicist Yukichiro Nikkei, 1900 to 1962, created the first artificial snowflakes. At Hokkaido University in 1936. Nikkei, who was inspired by the photographs of Wilson A. Bentley, 1865 to 1931, also devised a rather poetic snowflake classification system, which he described in his 1954 book, Snow Crystals, Natural and Artificial.
How have weather-related forest fires created tragic disasters in the United States?
Dry, hot conditions and lightning have caused some of the most devastating forest fires in the United States. For example, on September 1, 1894, a heat wave in the Midwest led to a forest fire near Hinckley, Minnesota, where 400 people consequently lost their lives. And on October 8, 1871, the so-called Peshtigo fire killed 1,800 people in Michigan and Wisconsin. Northern climes are particularly vulnerable to forest fires caused by the weather. During Alaska's mild, dry summers, for instance, the state experiences a dramatic rise in forest fires.
What is a meteorologist?
People usually associate meteorologists with television station weathercasters. Most meteorologists, though, work behind the scenes. They can be found working for the National Weather Service, in laboratories, at weather research stations, or working for universities. Meteorologists need a good understanding of physics, chemistry, hydrology, and other disciplines to do their jobs well. The American Meteorological Society defines a meteorologist as someone who can research, observe, explain, and forecast the weather, who understands the principles behind weather phenomena, and who appreciates the effects that the weather has on Earth. Meteorologists obtain a bachelor's degree in science to do their jobs, and many of them have master's degrees or doctorates. There are also a variety of specialties in the field, such as hydrology and climatology. And many meteorologists study mathematics, computer engineering, electrical engineering, and more.